there is a fifth dimension, beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Twilight Highlight Zone. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by...
Hi, Ben. It's me, Jeff.
What is this? The end of the road, some would say.
Or the start of a new road.
Let's find out. We're talking about the final episode of Season 1 of Jordan Peele's reboot of The Twilight Zone, and inherently the reboot of The Twilight Highlight Zone, where we all got a little bit hipper and fresher and younger.
Yes, absolutely.
I have a sister now that was never explained before in the plot.
I'm dabbing.
This episode's called Blurryman.
It is.
What did you know going into this episode?
Absolutely. Well, I saw the preview for it.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
What was the preview like?
It focused on Seth Rogen.
Okay.
And a few shots of Blurryman.
Oh.
It was very cryptic.
It made it seem like Seth Rogen was battling the Blurryman?
Yeah, kind of. And then also the actress who plays Sophie in the episode. But it was very cryptic. It did not lend it, didn't play its hand.
Oh, good.
At all. Because this one's a doozy.
It's a doozy, and we're recording it, after the weekend. And so it was like around that Friday. My stupid Google News feed, that's where all the spoilers happen, right? Where I'm just in Google on my little app here, it said Jordan Peele's meta ending to Twilight Zone Season 1. I was like, oh no, because now I know for sure they're just going to make the interconnected Twilight Zone universe, and that's going to be what the episode's about ultimately. Yeah. I could not have been more delighted when it was not that at all. Like, to be convinced that something's spoiled for you, and then as you go into it, it's like, oh my God, it's a different kind of spoiler I did not see coming.
In some ways, the show spoils itself.
Well, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Two thoughts.
Yes.
First of all, Blurryman.
Yeah.
I was just listening to the podcast, You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes, which I enjoy quite a bit. And he, disconnected from this, just reminded me of the Mitch Hedberg joke about what if Bigfoot was just actually blurry? Which I thought about a lot during this episode. It's very smart stuff. I'm a little bit worried, I guess, just for Twilight Zone in general, because this episode, not to tip my hand, is bonkers. I think in a good way. And I think, and maybe this is a critique of our podcast, but I had one person tweet at me like, holy crap, I can't wait for you to talk about this episode.
Yeah.
I just feel like it has been radio silence, and they're swinging for a grand slam. Yeah. Did you feel the same way?
It felt like they were trying to set things up for a spectacular second season.
Yes. Okay. That's fair.
But at the same time, I feel like it's a nice way to conclude the first season if they decide, oh yeah, wait a second, this isn't good. Maybe we should stop for sure. Look
what we've done. Yeah, look where we ended it, for Christ's sake.
I can't in good conscience force people to subscribe to CBS All Access anymore.
All Access. Did you see that they re-released all the episodes on All Access? Video on demand.
Of the Twilight Zone?
Yeah, except in black and white.
Oh yeah, of this
season, which is an interesting idea, but unless they had that in mind when they're shooting it, because anybody can just desaturate and up the contrast, but it's like, if it's shot in black and white, I think it's important.
Yeah, why not flip it vertically too? Like, hey, what would that look like?
Dun, 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 dun. Anyways, let's get through this. So it opens with our boy Seth Rogen.
Yes,
starring role throughout this episode, the most important character. It's Seth Rogen, and he's a writer, and he's frustrated. He's like, oh man, they say you're supposed to, or like you have the imposter syndrome and it's not real, but maybe some writers are imposters. I'm a fraud. I'm no good. I didn't even think of ending this episode about the end of the world with the end of the world and a mushroom cloud. Oh, that's right. What if I put that first? Okay.
He's like trying to cry. He's pacing around. He's got like Post-it notes on the wall.
Right.
It's good stuff. He also makes a joke about Stockholm syndrome. Just because you have Stockholm syndrome doesn't mean you're not in Sweden.
Sure, I guess we'll go with that. Yeah, it's confusing. But even just like, the pained writer, I think even before he opened the curtains, because let's just get to this, he opens the curtains and the world is actually nuked outside.
Yes, because his like girlfriend or wife comes home and he's like, I cracked the code, I did it. And she's like, what is she? What's their line? We have to head to the shelter. The Reapers will be out soon.
Yeah, and I was like, did he say Reapers? Okay, cool.
Oh, this episode is gonna suck because it's like, oh, what he comes up with is real now, and he opens the blinds and there's just like cars on fire. Everything in that line about the Reapers.
Well, I didn't think it was gonna suck. Like, I'm on board for that type of episode, especially because it's like, oh, it's the end of the first season, exactly like A World of His Own.
Yeah,
which is how they ended the first season of the Twilight Zone, which is with a writer who controls his universe as well.
Right.
And it's like, okay, that's kind of like a fun homage. Then it's like, oh no, it's breaking from that. And then ultimately, it's like, it is. I wonder if it is kind of deliberate. Like, do you think it's a deliberate homage to A World of His Own?
It seems like they are constantly, even if they're not directly taking plot lines, they are clearly keeping one eye on the original run of the Twilight Zone for inspiration, peppering it with references and stuff. But even that, like, kind of, there are a lot of elements from it. So it would be amazing if it was just an astounding coincidence.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, especially, yeah, I think so. And I like that form of reference a lot. I've grown to appreciate it throughout the course of watching the Reboot series, is like the not quite remake, but subtle homage. If you're a fan, you can see kind of where we're pulling this from, but we're not going to beat you over the head too much with it.
Yeah.
Although I guess later in this episode, they do kind of shove your face in some stuff, but that's fine. It's a horrific post-apocalyptic nightmare outside. And then Jordan Peele comes on the screen and explains, hey, it's a whole new episode. There's more to art than entertainment. And he goes, you know what? I think we can beat this.
Yep.
And completely breaks character. And he's like, where's Sophie? And he's looking around. Cut! They pull the camera back. Yeah. Immediately, my skin crawls with pure delight.
Oh, yeah. It was the best. Because immediately, like, Jordan Peele drops the narrator persona.
Yes.
And he's just kind of like... Because I have to say, the one thing about this run of the series is because, like, Jordan Peele has reinvented himself after Key and Peele to be, like, a more serious director of horror. And not to say that those movies are not, like, no fun zones. You know what I mean? There's certainly like a lot of funny parts to it, but it just seems like his persona on this has been so dry and so no fun.
Right.
Just to see like, oh yeah, this guy's freaking hilarious.
Yes. Although I think he pushes it a little bit too far. Like, I wish he was just 100% himself. I think that's much more fun, but I think he pushes himself to a little bit of like a dicky, like fueling his own ego persona a little bit later in the episode, which I'm not as crazy about, but I could not be more delighted with that. And I feel like this episode, it touches on a lot of the critiques we've had about this entire season. And like one of them is just that, like, I can't take Jordan Peele seriously as a character. And like, look, we know that. Bam, here's him actually basically as himself now. You don't have to take him real as a character anymore. There's more as we go throughout here. But I love it. He's like, sorry guys, sorry Seth. We need to punch up this script, punch up this narration a little bit. I love Seth he does a very good job of being very casual. He's like, yeah, no problem. It's your show, dude.
Exactly.
Betty over here is getting pretty pissy. He's like, I am not. All that stuff. Yeah. So anyways, Jordan Peele wants to talk to Sophie, who's the writer on this episode. This section is so good. They were walking back to the dressing room and basically talking about everything we've been talking about on this podcast for the entire season.
Which makes it so smart.
It makes it so smart, right? Where it's like, it's a little too on the nose. I think we should be approaching it metaphorically, or how do we approach this narration? He's like, no, just dumb it down, make it simpler.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I think it's not just campfire stories, right? Rod Serling kind of elevates these stories, and Jordan Peele's like, is there something wrong with campfire stories?
Yeah.
Just a fun back and forth about what the hell is the Twilight Zone anyway? And you get to see the people behind the scenes trying to discover what they're trying to create here.
Yeah, she's like, it's not just monsters on a plane wing. And then like, she says, like, there's a reason that Rod Serling was in every episode, and Jordan Peele's like, until now.
Pops a mint into his mouth.
Yep.
Please remember this moment. Wink, wink, wink. Yeah.
Submitted for your approval to the Emmys.
Yeah, I am just in love with this entire section, just the mushy debate about what it all is. So then...
and she's like, she always wanted to know, when do we actually get to the Twilight Zone?
Right, when I watched it as a kid, I wanted to get to the Twilight Zone, which, I don't know, in the course of the entire podcast, we must have talked about that at some point, that like, what is the Twilight Zone?
Twilight Zone?
I don't remember being like haunted by that basic premise, but I guess that's a read I guess you can have on the old show.
And then like Jordan Peele tries to ad-lib the narration at the beginning, which is super funny, and he's like, witness Adam Wing, and she's like, Wingman.
Yeah, don't forget it. Also, I guess on the last, or not the last episode, but the one with the alternate dimension. We were joking about maybe that's the Twilight Zone. Turns out not quite. We might get to see it a little bit later, I think. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So, then coming back from commercial break, it's listing credits on the bottom like it always does.
Yes.
I was praying to God that they wouldn't show the writer and director for this episode.
Yeah.
Because I think that'd be so much more fun and meta at the time. Because in my mind, I'm like, is the writer actually named Sophie? Like, that'd be so effing cool if they actually listed the credits that way. But no, it turns out that the credits, the person that we said we wanted to get on the show is the main writer for this episode, who's Alex Rubens. And it's directed, of course, by Simon Kinberg himself, the producer who's produced everything under the sun.
Really?
And he also directed the film Dark Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, that's coming out this week. So, hey, very exciting.
Interesting.
Very exciting times
Another
for Simon
Sophie.
Kinberg. That's right. Oh, good point.
Thank you.
I wonder if he thought about that.
Yeah, specifically.
Yeah. So they come back and it's like, hey, she's cramming. She has to write a new intro. She has writer's block. She's rewriting this stuff. It's kind of fun because she's like working her way through it, and it feels very much like cliche of Twilight Zone after cliche of Twilight Zone.
Yeah, she's got like on her laptop, there's a sticker where the Apple logo would be, and it's like Rod Serling's head with a spiral behind it, which is very cool.
Yes, and then later on in the episode, she's carrying out a notebook, and it has like a trip to Mars on it. It also has like a Whipple sticker that's like half covered up and stuff.
I will say on Facebook, I keep getting this ad served to me like, hey, you should watch this Twilight Zone thing. And in the comments, it's super fun to watch it, to check through it. And there's a surprising amount of people, maybe not surprising, that are like, this show sucks. I like the original with Rod Serling.
So comes back. Jordan Peele's doing the new narration. It had to be on cue cards because they're so down to the wire, right? And so he's reading the cue cards.
I don't understand that. Is it just faster than typing to write it on?
Because then what are you going to do? Like, you're going to load it into the teleprompter? I mean, no teleprompter can go that fast. Especially when she said, she's like, I'll write it on the cue cards myself. It's like, that seems like it would take a while.
Yeah, okay. First, I need to learn how to write on cue cards.
Just make it tiny font all on one. So anyways, he's reading the new narration, and it's like, oh, this is all about a writer and the blurry background of her episodes, all this stuff. And then it basically ends then with, Jordan Peele kind of laughing, be like, okay, Sophie, whatever that was, okay.
And Seth Rogen's like, hey, this sounds like a better episode.
I love that.
I like the version of Seth Rogen that is on this episode is just the best.
Right.
I think he seems like a cool guy in general, but I love the version of him in here.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, and I realized I completely misspoke because they have the credits after this chunk, because this is the chunk that I absolutely love, where, Seth Rogen is jokey. And then Jordan Peele's kind of laughing. He just goes, what's going on? And then it cuts to the intro of the Twilight Zone, which is like, that's what he could say every episode.
Are you guys seeing this? What?
What is happening? So comes back, and it's like, she's like, I swear it wasn't me that actually wrote those cue cards. And she's like, maybe, somebody wrote it because they're hoping for like a blooper reel. And he's like, aren't the bloopers supposed to be funny? Like, it wasn't funny.
Oh, yeah, like a blooper reel. And he's like, but that would, oh, a blooper reel that's not funny. Wow.
Yeah.
And there's a funny moment when they're walking, and he's like, this guy walks by and he goes, hey, can I have some of that? And he grabs the bag of popcorn from the guy and just takes it.
Yes.
By some of, he means all of.
Yes. This is where like kind of that Dickie persona comes through a little bit more, right? Or he even like in the last scene talking about like dumbing down the narration and stuff, where it's like, I wish it was just a little more realistic. But I guess he's having fun.
Everyone calls him JP.
Or Jay. Yeah. I wonder if they do that on set too.
Yes.
But so
clearly.
she's worried about her job. And like, I swear, JP, it wasn't me. And Jordan Peele's like, hey, you should be worried about anything right now. It's that you're in an episode of The Twilight Zone. The writer who can't outrun her fears, that type of thing. Which I'm sure that's not relevant in any way. And so she's talking to the editor, right? About trying to figure out who wrote those cue cards?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And the editor's like, does she make a joke that it's a Blurryman, or she just show that
she's just showing her like, yeah, there's also like, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Like there's this blurry guy in the background scene every time, and like the director swears he didn't see it.
Yeah, and they think it's her. Right? They think it's her messing with him again. So she shows her the scene from the library as a Blurryman. Then they're like, even in the first episode of the show, and they cut back to the comedian and show the Blurryman. They're like, it's there the whole time. It's obvious when you are looking for it, but people didn't comment on it at the time.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes.
I wanted them to keep going through and like
but they do show
later on, yeah. But even like sets wise, I wanted them to show more sets from previous episodes. And it seems like a lot's shot on location, so maybe the only set they had was that one from The Comedian. Because like that bar set, that was from The Comedian, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I wonder, was it the same bar from the Kid President episode also, I wonder?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
Because it's kind of at a different angle, right?
Yeah.
I'll say yes, but I don't know. Maybe they would have made that more clear and stuff. Hang on, I'm now just connecting more fun moments of this episode together in my head. Anyways, so she starts to get horrified about this Blurryman in the background, right?
Then they break for lunch.
Yes, and so she's wandering through. She goes to the library just to check it out.
Because she's trying to find Jordan.
Right.
JP.
Because she has to get the new cue cards and narration rolling.
Yeah.
So she goes to the library, and in the library, there is the Blurryman standing in the background.
Yes.
But even before that, it's just like very tense. She's really spooked out. Clearly something's happening. I thought this was like the scariest episode.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Of the entire run. Like, it was genuinely freaking me out. I thought it was so good. The sound design overall was just incredible.
She sees the Blurryman and then she's like, fine, whatever.
Right. But I love, even before that, there's just one cue card sitting by the bookshelf. And it just says, Sophie is about to learn. I love that. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that. I love that just for a spooky thing. Like, that's such a effed up thing to see.
Yeah.
Also, the concept of the Blurryman, tell me if I'm too up my head about this stuff, but it's certainly been in my notes, and I think we've talked about it throughout the season, of just how they love their shallow depth of field in the Twilight Zone. Clearly, you know, Man of Medan, what's another show called? Black Mirror. Yeah. Also does too. But it's just like, it's so omnipresent. And now the idea of like using background being blurred out as a core part of the narrative.
Yeah.
Oh, mwah. I just love it.
Yeah.
So I love it because she is going through all these sets, seeing the Blurryman again, getting more and more freaked out. But every time she tries to confront him, it's always like this, test me, MFer, let's go. Like she tries to, you're like, you're not even real. Every time she challenges the Blurryman, it's made very clear, like, no, this is quite real. Like, he's going to whip a ton of books at your effing head. Yeah. Like, do not mess with the Blurryman. This is not some fiction of your imagination.
Oh.
So she's like, oh, this is fun. Terrorize this woman on set. How do you think that's going to play out on Deadline over here? It's really playing into current pop culture. So she runs back into the bar from The Comedian. There's the book that she starts paging through. It's like this red book. This part freaked me out. Am I nuts?
Oh, yeah.
It was really unnerving. And I think it was just an overall tense episode. But like her flipping through, and there's kind of like a little, drawing, little flip book animated guy, and it's of the Blurryman. But the part that freaked me out is when like with the animations, like his leg like going all the way over to the other side of the book as he eventually takes up the full book.
Yeah.
And then it kind of grows into just pages being scribbled out. Did you take that to be a reference to Time Enough at Last?
Oh, there's a lot of Time Enough at Last in this episode.
Well, obviously. But do you think that specifically, like the scribbled out pages from his shrew of a wife?
I think they may have been a happy accident.
But why else have like the book
scribbled?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyways, so she again is trying to get tested by the Blurryman, and then just bottles of booze start being chucked at her head.
Yeah.
Which, if you think of like what the Blurryman is kind of interacting with in this episode, without spoiling anything yet, like I think it's really interesting that it's like books, booze, craft services table. Craft services. You know what I mean? It's like you could connect some dots about what they're trying to say here, I guess. So then she's running through, goes to the street set, and it's kind of this post-apocalyptic set.
Trips on one of those, was it a dolly track for a camera?
Yeah, or something. And so she's limping around and stuff, getting more and more horrified. She's like, Jordan puts you up to this because the horror genre stuff is real. People stalk each other and stuff. I love like that little reference of like, all right, Jordan with his effing horror, like trying to play into his career.
Well, before then, I think in the street, there's that shop with all the TVs in the windows, right?
Yes.
And she walks over there and they're all set to static. And then she sees cuts of a bunch of like shots from previous episodes with the Blurryman.
Yes.
In the background.
And it's like, there's no way there's actually that blurry of a character standing right there in that episode. We absolutely would have mentioned it, especially you who watched every episode twice. Did you research this much?
I did. Apparently there's very quick pass. It's not like the shot was ever lingering on that figure.
Not lingering. And also, I looked at like still images of the shots. They aren't that blurry. It's more of like what the figure looks like at the end of the episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not as blurred because it's like, man, that would be so distracting to have that kind of amorphous blob in those episodes.
Some dude from Jacob's Ladder here.
Right, and I have to go back and check my notes because maybe I wrote it down, but I remember specifically in replay, there's the shot and he's in the parking lot. Like smoking a cigarette. And I remember thinking like, that's really weird. Like I definitely noticed him that time of like, is this a reference to something? But anyways, not tipping our hand of where this is going. But yeah, fun. It's right there on the TVs. Then Blurryman gets closer and closer. She lets out a blood-curdling scream and he's gone. And then back from commercial, she's like, oh, it's not real. Then she hears her own voice going, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And this part too is like, it's crazy, but it's happening. And then our Sophie goes like, you can't use it anymore. It stigmatizes mental health. Like the idea of the show critiquing itself for being too PC at the same time. It's like everything is roped into this episode.
Yeah.
So she's talking to herself. What do you take this as meaning? What did you read into that? Were you thinking, like for me, when she started talking to herself, it's like, okay, so she's writing the episode right now and she's just projecting her own mind into it.
Narrating it as it's happening, but also having a dialogue with herself.
And I guess I'm still a little bit confused about what the voice accomplishes. Maybe she just needs somebody to like bounce back and forth off of.
I think it's a more effective way to articulate, hey, this is effed up. What is going on? Is this real? And then she can have confirmation from another voice.
Right. Like, and especially, I like the voice saying like, oh no, it is a nightmare, but it is real. Like this is actually happening to you. Which again, I think is reinforced every time she tries to challenge Blurryman. It's like, nope, F you, not a dream.
Yeah.
So she is then running around the sets. She runs across like Seth Rogen and basically the crew from the start of the episode, but she can't interact with them. They can't hear her. Unclear if she can touch them. It seems like she kind of touches his back at some point, but anyways, they do not acknowledge that she exists. She's running through. At this point, the craft services table launches itself into the sky because it's a very cool move.
Oh yeah, and nobody seems to notice. So
right. Then her own voice again is like, Sophie, stop! You can't run from this. You have to be able to see what's really there.
And she's like, I'm ready to see.
I'm ready to see it. And then Twilight Zone theme plays as like this black and white cloud consumes her.
Yeah.
It is so cool looking.
Yeah, and then she's like remembering her childhood watching the show, and her parents are like, go outside, play with the other kids. And Time Enough at Last is playing on the television.
Right. Because
watching that episode.
And it's like, I guess if you have to choose an episode.
Yeah.
Is it? Do you think Time Enough at Last is #1 most famous episode?
I would think that in Nightmare 20,000 Feet.
Yeah.
Two. Like, those are the two that people seem to remember.
Yeah.
I mean, you also have, like, To Serve Man. You've got Eye of the Beholder. I mean, there's a lot of really famous episodes.
I bet Time Enough at Last is #1, though.
Yeah.
I'm sure earlier in this podcast I argued otherwise, but I'm going with that right now. At this point, do you, without tipping our hand again, do you understand exactly where this is going? Like, at what point? Oh, really?
I'm kind of like, yeah.
Okay, I was thinking back and like fully connecting the dots. Like, okay, got it. But I love it. So she thinks that she's like, had this epiphany. She's back on the set. She's conquered her fears. She saw herself as a child watching the Twilight Zone, and then the voice is like, "Did you think this was over?" And the camera starts spinning around her and rotating, and as it's doing, it's desaturating more and more, which is just an awesome effect.
Yeah. So essentially, it ends up in almost like a black and white. There's still some elements of color, right?
Right.
It's very muted.
Yes. So then she's running out and she goes to the post-apocalyptic set and then it's like, oh, this is basically just the Time Enough at Last set. She's running up the steps and it's like, okay, good, subtle. And then they have an extreme close-up of like the glasses that are broken. It's like, okay, we got it.
Yeah. British Meredith saying, my glasses.
Yeah. Which I guess that's cool to like repurpose the post-apocalyptic set from earlier in the episode in a new way. Because I certainly didn't think of Time Enough at Last when like you first saw the street and stuff like that. So then she's like, oh, okay, I get it. This is the end of the episode with some cruel twist because here I am confronting Blurryman again.
She seems a little more desperate when she's saying it. She's like, what did I do wrong? I did everything I could. Did I learn the wrong lesson? What was I supposed to do?
Right. The lesson thing is interesting.
Yeah.
Then Blurryman starts walking towards her, closer and closer. He's getting less blurry.
Yes, he's now sharp focus man.
I'd argue too sharp focus man.
Maybe dial it back a little bit.
Why not leave it a little blurry is my question. But the Twilight Zone strings are playing more and more, and out walks
Rod Serling. No, it's Rod Serling. CGI.
Rod Serling. Love it. Why not? It's like I'm always so annoyed. Good. I'm so annoyed by CG Leia and stuff like that in Rogue One. It's like I wish it was perfect and they shot it not in such a confident way.
Yeah.
Because it is not as good as they think it is.
No.
But still,
it's good enough.
Especially if you pause it, I think it looks really good.
Yeah.
And then he starts speaking, and Rod Serling's like, I think you know where we are.
It's a pretty good Rod Serling.
The dialogue is pretty good. I think that closing narration is damn near perfect. If that's not actually an old clip.
They have dialed into the the ponderous prose that would often accompany those last episodes. Yeah,
yes. So he grabs her. They go through the door. I'd argue it's the door of imagination.
Yeah, they open a door, and there's another door identical behind it.
And it starts twisting a little bit.
They start opening, it's just an endless corridor of doors.
Yes, and then they eventually are floating towards a galaxy that's in the intro.
Walking in space. It's so good.
Whatever. And then the narration's all about let's see. Just about, there's multiple stories, multiple versions, multiple worlds. You need to stop being so closed-minded and open your eyes to a new beginning for the Twilight Zone.
Yes.
Which is hokey and hacky. I totally get it.
Yes.
But come on. What did you think of this episode, Quirk?
I loved it. I thought it was so much fun.
That's exactly my takeaway. Yeah. It's like, it's the only episode of this season where I've been thinking about it since I watched it and then thought about it again this morning as I was eating breakfast. And I'm torn a little bit for is it empty calories? Is it as smart, or is there depth, or is it just fun? And it's either way, it's the most fun episode of this season. One of the most fun episodes of Twilight Zone I've ever seen. It
feels as though, without getting into it, we'll have a larger conversation about this run of new episodes later, but it feels like this should have been the pilot.
Are you out of your mind? This is the payoff. You can't do this as the pilot.
Everything else would have seemed even worse, and it would have set up false expectations.
They're going for a twist. I understand the idea of hey, we should have a fun episode as the pilot, but I love saving this for the finale, especially because...
Well, I wonder how many people honestly got this far,
Nobody.
Though. Yeah.
I think there are a total of 3 views for the analytics for CBS All Access, and it's us and the one person that tweeted at me.
Yeah, people just waving dismissively. I'm done.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer, because this is a really good payoff.
I know, and it's to the point now where it's okay, you should just watch the comedian episode for free, I guess, and then just watch this finale.
Yep.
And you will get the new Twilight Zone. Yeah. Do you think there's depth here, or is it just a fun episode?
I think they're both a little bit. Yeah, I think it's a really smart critique, like you said earlier, about this series as a whole.
Yeah.
It is nice to get confirmation, they know what they're doing, whether or not you agree or disagree with the choices. They're well aware of the stands that they have been taking creatively.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to condescend to say these are just a bunch of idiots throwing together random trash. Even if you disagree, I think as a whole, the series has not been very good. But
yeah, I think I disagree a little bit, but yes, okay.
Yeah, but they're doing the thing that they want to be doing, and I feel like this time everything kind of aligned in a way that I was into.
This time, but it's in a way I think you can only do once.
Yes.
Right? I mean, will they keep Blurryman in next season? I bet they will.
You bet they will?
Do you think they will?
That's a good question. Yeah, I honestly don't know. Because it seems like they really did ease off on the Easter eggs as well. Because it seems like they were a lot...
I don't know.
I do.
Maybe not as...
They're not as overt.
Yeah, but there's definitely at least 1 or 2 per episode,
Yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe it's just this episode's so enjoyable and so fun because... I don't know. Again, I'll go ahead and go on a limb. I know that we covered some deep topics in earlier episodes and stuff, but it feels like this is a topic that the writers will really feel and can really get behind is just the episode about living up to the pressure from Rod Serling and the ghost of Rod Serling effing torturing them, which is the best.
Yeah.
It's the most fun you can have. Oh, and then I forgot to mention, then back half, they have end credits like the old style, the dun 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 dun, 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 with like a new version of that old song, and it just sounds so awesome.
When she is like when the camera is panning around her too, the music, if it is not a direct like pulled from the same stock library of music that CBS would always use on the original run of the Twilight Zone, it is something that is so heavily inspired by it. It's just like very dramatic. And it's a super fun like throwback orchestration.
Yeah, I want to listen to this episode's soundtrack. I think overall the sound is incredible. Well, what is this episode about in your mind?
What is this episode about? I think you nailed it. I think it's just about living up to expectations, and taking on what is an impossible challenge in some ways. And it's also the spirit of discovery. Twilight Zone. What is this thing?
Yeah. Is it a campfire story?
Is it a campfire story? You could certainly reduce it to being a campfire story, for sure. Like, hey, one time there was a rider and she disappeared, and there's weird stuff about a blurry guy.
Also, Blurryman's just he's not exactly Slender Man, but like he's a good new scary monster concept.
Yeah.
I think it's...
I wonder why he was so mean to her. Why was he throwing things at her?
Well, that's the thing is like, Rod Serling was an alcoholic, right?
I don't know.
Am I just assuming that? I'm sure we talked about it at some point of this podcast again. But like the bottles thing is interesting. Mm-hmm. Throwing books at her, it's like, okay, I could get down with Rod doing that. Be like, learn your craft more, you hack. Read Playdate 90, the novelization.
Well, it seems like books and bottles aren't the only things that are being projected right now.
Go. But yes, absolutely. Like, why is he like literally breaking this woman's leg and stuff?
Yeah.
Like, he's chasing her around.
You think if he sees potential in her, maybe like, we gotta see if she'll like confront me and then she deserves it or something. But at a certain point, it's just like, chill out, Rod. You know what I mean? She's like, she's been into you for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, obviously now it's very fun for her being like, well, Rod Serling's in every episode.
Yeah.
Which, if you recall your Twilight Zone history, is not true until the end of the first season.
Right.
You know what I mean? Well, I guess he was like, did that closing thing of like, the next episode is a doozy or whatever. But like in the actual episode, that doesn't start until A World of His Own. So even then, it's kind of meta in its own way, where end of the first season, Rod comes into the show.
He deletes himself too, doesn't he?
I think the guy kills him.
Yeah.
Because he's on the dictation tape, whatever the hell that old tech is and stuff that he keeps burning. Bloop. The red-eyed elephant.
Yeah.
In the hallway. What score did you give this, Kirk?
What did I give it? I gave it a 9. I thought this was so much fun.
I was debating. I gave it a 10.
Yeah.
And I was like, it should save the 10 for the absolute masterpieces, but at the same time, at some point, you have to give it up for like, it's not conceivable to be more entertained watching an episode of TV than I was watching this.
I guess in some ways, like I know I said that this should have been the pilot, mostly because I just feel like it would have been a better way to introduce people to something fun. But then your expectations, you were like, hey, this show's fun and good, and then you'd be disappointed. But like, it is a nice payoff to see like the JP facade fall down and just see just people having a good time.
God, and I hope that they're hearing enough praise and acclaim for this episode, but at the same time, like, how do you carry it forward other than having Blurryman in second season?
Yeah.
I feel like every episode now, it's just going to be like, just yell cut. Like, I just want them to break the fourth wall again and again and again.
Yes, exactly. Well, it seems like the next season, they've run out of hot button political issues. They tackled everything, so now they can just do the fun stuff.
Won't be like campfires.
Yeah, this alien is actually a metaphor for racism.
Is there anything to the idea that Seth Rogen and his character in that episode summoned the post-apocalyptic world? Is there any universe where we're still in that episode going down the rabbit hole? Do you know what I mean?
No, they yelled cut.
Yeah, so that just defeats all that?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any like universe where it is Mr. World of His Own pulling the strings for, you know, as we speculated, all of the original run of the Twilight Zone. If there's any world where it's like it's Seth Rogen in this one.
Yeah.
But I guess in this one, it's just Jordan Peele, I guess now at this point, trying to get those scripts dumber.
Do you think they will ever revisit that idea, or they're just like, yeah, we completely burned that one?
Like the next one is just like a road trip comedy with Rod Serling CG and Sophie going through the Twilight Zone.
Or do you think we'll see an episode like the season premiere? The next one is the Seth Rogen episode.
And you know that in his mind he's not that into it.
It is not that
sounds
good.
Like a better episode. What is the idea then? That's just like heaven is Twilight Zone. I mean, not that direct, but just like it is. He just showed her the Twilight Zone and brought her to this other universe because only he can do it, and they'll never touch it.
And she's like so excited, and then he's like, "Let me show you more about Willoughby." All right,
to the Twilight Zone, but first a stop at Willoughby.
Here, let's look at all these lame episodes. Yeah, you like Robert Duvall, right?
And you like Hitler
and dolls?
Oh, that's right. I was thinking of the other one.
Oh, you can do both. That's Living Doll and Dollhouse.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, Blurryman. Good job.
Good stuff. Good job.
What fun.
You guys did it.
What fun.
It's a shame that we're assuming more people won't see it.
Yes.
So now that if you have not yet seen this episode and we've completely spoiled it, you should go check it out.
Yeah, it's a real hoot.
Yeah.
What? Oh.
What?
I'm just thinking about that CG look for him. It's something in the motion. It's so weird that pausing it, it's like, oh, not bad. And then the second it plays, it gets brought down to like a 6 out of 10.
When he was walking toward the door at the end, I couldn't not think about the fact that we learned that Rod Serling, how tall he was, like 5'8" or something.
Oh, right.
So I was like, is this going to be like a forced perspective thing where he approaches and he has to like get on his toes to like reach the doorknob? But fortunately, you could tell he was not a tall guy with the CG Rod Serling, so they nailed that.
I'd love to hear what his family thought of this.
Oh, isn't the daughter? She's a producer, right?
Or the wife? Yeah, somebody. Yeah, Carolyn Serling is connected to the show as executive producer. But yeah, we'll figure it out. When do you want to do Franklin's?
The Franklins? Let's do them soon.
Okay, let's do them soon. Hopefully look forward to them this week then.
Yeah.
Great. And thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Twilight Highlight Zone. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel for more episodes, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can subscribe to the podcast feed. Yeah. It goes both ways, much like the Twilight Zone door.
Oh, my Lord.
Until next time, Twilight Highlight Ballad.